Hello everyone on YouTube, and especially Richard and Paul. This is Ken from Ken's Kitchen Garden, also Verdigris Market Garden, and this video is a response and an entry into their 2019 Cookery Challenge. So we're going to be making something called the Three Sisters. What you probably already know from, if you know anything about North American gardening and history, that traditionally the Three Sisters is a Native American gardening technique that incorporates a tall structure, corn, that supports vines, beans, and a ground cover, squash, or in this case, sweet potatoes. There's also a symbiotic beneficial relationship between the three plants. The corn is a heavy feeder which leaches nitrogen from the soil so that the beans fix nitrogen back into the soil. And to counteract diseases and also to prevent so much nitrogen from being leached out. And then the ground cover protects the soil from erosion and also keeps the soil cooler and more moist. And what that does in a nutritional perspective, they also have a symbiotic relationship. This group of plants makes a complete protein, so the corn and the beans and the squash or the sweet potatoes actually combine nutritionally to create a full protein. So the Three Sisters combination that we're going to be making today is a colorful dish. So once we go through the ingredients, we'll talk a little bit about the phytonutrients that are associated with each one of the colors of the food. So if you're familiar with eating your colors, this will make sense. So as we go through, I'm going to point to them and then we'll get cooking. Alright, so here are the ingredients. We'll talk a little bit about those. So the dish incorporates purple onions, and those purple and blue help the brain function and supplies all of the nutrients for that. Orange, for the sweet potato, is high in vitamin A, and the black beans are high in protein. The yellow corn is great for aiding digestion, and then finally the red pepper has a high lycopene content, and so that's great for cardiac, prevents heart disease, and it also helps with estrogen related concerns. The quantities and all of this information will be on in the video at the end, and also we will make sure that the recipe is posted in the comments. So we'll get started by warming up a large, shallow dish and adding some extra virgin olive oil just to get the pan warm and to start the cooking. Once the pan's warmed up, we're going to add the red or purple onions and let those start cooking down. It takes a few minutes, so we'll be doing some magic of television editing as we go through the recipe. Once the onions start to sweat, not fully cooked down, but just starting to sweat, we're going to add the sweet potato. It's quite a tough vegetable, so it's going to take a few minutes to cook. Once you've incorporated the sweet potatoes and the onion mixture, I'm going to add a little bit of broth. We're using an organic vegetable broth, just to add some liquid to the pan to help those sweet potatoes soften, and we'll also cover and cook that for a few minutes. So after about 2 to 3 minutes covered, just take the lid off, let that steam escape. And the sweet potato is significantly more soft, and then the onions have sweated out a lot of their liquid as well, so they're softening. Give it a couple of minutes to dry off a little bit, let the steam from the broth and the moisture evaporate, and then we'll move on to the next ingredient. Once the pan is dry again and things start sticking to the bottom a little bit, it's time to add the next ingredient, and that is chopped red pepper. I add this last as far as the sautéing of ingredients because the pepper doesn't take very long to cook, and you want to make sure that the other vegetables are soft before you add it. It's at this point that I also season it before I add the other ingredients. It's helpful to make sure that those seasoning ingredients are incorporated into the vegetables that you're sautéing. And so what we use is a combination. So you'll see it in the bowl, it's mixed up. It's about 3 teaspoons total of seasoning. And what is included in that is kosher salt, black pepper, thyme, and a blend of chili powder, which has ancho chilies and a couple of other ingredients, cumin, a little bit of garlic powder. So it's flavorful, and it adds a little bit of heat for the way that we like to eat this. It's really tasty as a chip dip. It's really great as a burrito, which you'll see at the end of the video because that's how we like to eat them. And it's not just a dinner burrito. What you can add to this if you are not completely vegetarian. So in the morning, if you want to eat this in the morning, you can add scrambled egg to it, along with a little bit of hot sauce, and it makes a terrific breakfast burrito. Alright, so let's add the seasoning. I like to add the garlic later in the cooking process so it doesn't get burned. And just stir that up to make sure that it's all incorporated. Now we'll add the final 2 ingredients. First is black beans. This is 2 14-ounce cans that have been drained and then rinsed really well until the water runs clear. Once that's incorporated, I would add a little bit more broth just to kind of give the pan a little more moisture. Keep things from sticking at the bottom, just not a whole lot. The vegetable broth it also adds quite a bit of flavor, so it's a flavorful dish once it's completed. And these beans just need a couple of minutes to warm up and cook through. They're pre-cooked anyway out of the can, so you really don't need to spend a whole lot of time with them, and if you do spend too much time with them on the stove, they tend to get mushy and overcooked. Alright, the final ingredient is corn. This can be fresh from your garden if it's within season, or like we do, we freeze a lot, and you can use your own frozen corn from the summer, or you could also buy store-bought. It's really coming together now. It's really pretty, very colorful. Hopefully you can see that. Give this a couple of minutes for the kernels of corn to completely cook and work through. I might add a little bit more salt at this point. And a bit of pepper. After it cooks a few more minutes, I will also test it for seasoning in case it needs any more chili powder or any other seasonings. You want to make sure that all of the moisture gets out of the pan, so the corn is going to leach some of the, it's going to add more moisture to the pan because it was frozen and it's obviously got quite a bit of water content in it. So as it cooks, it will release that water, and you want to make sure that you're continually stirring and making sure that the pan itself actually dries out before you finish the dish. Once it's complete, turn off the heat, and there you have it. It's a completely nutritious, beautifully colored dish. Like I said, it's great as a chip dip. It's really great as a burrito, breakfast or otherwise. We've often added, we're not vegetarians, so we have added like a sauteed ground turkey to this sometimes, and then stuffed butternut squashes with it. You could also omit the ground turkey if you don't want that. We don't eat red meat. But this stuffed inside with a little bit of the butternut squash in a butternut squash and then baked is really delicious too. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to plate this up as our favorite dish, since we're eating this for dinner tonight, as a burrito, and you can see the result. Alright, so let's get this plated up so that I can have my dinner and my husband can have his dinner. This recipe will serve about 6 people, very hungry 6 people, but what's terrific about it is it keeps very well in the refrigerator, and even tomorrow the flavors will meld a little bit more after sitting, and this will make a terrific breakfast burrito in the morning, or we can have it again for dinner tomorrow night. So what we do is we just take a flour tortilla and we add a bit of the filling to that tortilla. You don't want to overfill it, but you also don't want to underfill it. And then I like to add a little bit of shredded cheese to the inside. And then fold that over. And again. And then we'd like to top it with some chunky salsa. And a bit of sour cream. And there you have it, the 3 sisters. And now it's in a burrito. So please enjoy the recipe, try it out, and let us know what you think. Thanks.